producer. Every single thing, but famous for what?
Breaking Bad.
Oh, the box cutter scene. It is my pleasure. I'm the biggest fan that you have, but it looks like the room is full of people just like me. Let's put your hands together and welcome Giancarlo Esposito. How's everybody?
Good.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good to see you today. Comic-Con, first day. Are we gearing up? You guys all ready to go? Oh yeah. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So it's a pleasure to come here, and I love coming to Comic-Cons because it just reflects how the naturalness of playfulness that we can be into when we come to Comic-Con. So I noticed that a lot of you aren't dressed up. What's going on? What's the reason for that? Tell me. You look like you're dressed. What's happening? So do we have a mic out there for questions? If folks have questions for me, do we have a mic out there in the audience? Or do you
No, it's not pretty much yelling.
All right, good. Anyone have any questions for me about my career or what I'm doing and about Breaking Bad? Oh, we got a hand. Oh, from the only dressed gal in the audience with big, huge horns on. Go ahead, talk to me.
How did you like being on Community?
I enjoyed it. You know, it's a very different show than what I'm used to. I've known Chevy Chase for a long time, and those guys are all very spontaneous kind of comedic personalities. But it was really fun. When I went to do that show, I had one of my daughters with me. I have 4 children, and one came with me, and I got a call from Dan Harmon saying, "Would you come and honor us with your presence?" And I said, "Well, Dan, tell me what the storyline might be." And he mentioned being Chevy's brother, and I thought, that might be interesting. I haven't seen Chevy in a long time. So my daughter came with me, and she's used to very dramatic shows that I do, Breaking Bad being one of them. And she came out. I got there at about midnight into Los Angeles on my way to do another show that I do called Once Upon a Time, which is why I wanted to bring my 15-year-old. And so she came out, we got there at 6 in the morning after a few hours sleep. They didn't have a script for me the night before, so I literally learned all of my lines that morning. And she came out of the trailer and she watched the rehearsal, and no one knew their lines, and they were all kind of improvising, and they were all flubbing everything during the rehearsal. And she said, "Papa, I'm going to go back to the trailer." And I said to her, I said, "Why no? Stay out. Watch the next rehearsal. It'll get better." She said, "Oh no, this is so random." But I enjoyed that show. It was really a lot of fun.
Best episode ever.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Questions for me? Yeah.
How did you prep for your role as Gus on Breaking Bad?
You know, I was inspired by the first script I read. I didn't know the show. I got a call from my manager saying they'd like you to guest on the show, and I had not been doing guest spots because I had done so many in New York from my days as a theater actor. And I said, "Well, send me the show and I'll take a look at it." He said, "It's one of my favorite shows. You can't turn this down." And so I read the script, and there were a couple of things that really appealed to me, and one was hiding in plain sight. And I thought that was really an important part of what Vince had envisioned in this guest spot for this guy to be. Now, you know, on Breaking Bad, you know, folks stay around for 2 or 3 episodes and they die. And so normally it's what the case is. So I went out to do my first episode and had a great chemistry with Bryan Cranston. It was inspired by certain things written in the script. And by the time I finished the first episode, they were asking me to do another. And I said, "Well, you know, I'm not in the guest star business anymore, but I would consider and think about it because I liked and loved what I saw of the show that was sent to me and the script that I read." And so I did another episode at the end of season 2. And before I even got off the plane, you know, I was taxiing on the plane. I got a text saying, "They want you to come back for more." And I said, "No, I don't want to do that because I'd like to be able to be a member of this family of filmmakers, and it would have to be more than just a couple of episodes." So I said, "Why don't you guys just wait until 4 months until after the hiatus and season 4 came along and decide if you had a mind to still want me to come back." And so season 3 came up, and they called and said, "Would you do 6?" And I said, "No." They said, "Would you do 7?" I said, "No." And then they said, "Well, we do 11." And I said, "I don't think so." And they said, "Well, we only do 13. Come on." And I said, "You got a point there." So I agreed, and we figured out a contract, and I wound up doing 12 in that 3rd season, and the rest is history. So that's how all that sort of came about. You know, look, I believe that what we do as our vocation isn't that separate from who we are. And what I notice in life about many of us is that we sometimes choose a vocation that we like when we're young, and we either get tired of it or bored of it, or maybe it doesn't work for us economically, it doesn't link up with our values and views with the company that we're with as we go through the process. And what happens sometimes is that we are afraid, because we have responsibilities that we gain along the way, i.e. children, households, families, mothers, fathers who start to grow old and we have to take care of them, that we're afraid to make a change. And for me, I notice this from my own experience. And change can be something that we're afraid of because we don't know, that's an unknown. But when we're able to muster the courage and make that change, sometimes that reflects a really good energetic level in our lives. And then we start to learn that change is actually really good, geographically and vocationally. It's hard. Look, I went to school for radio and television communications. I did a 2-year degree and got an associate's degree in that. And that was many, many, many years ago. But I recognize I love photography. I love to learn about lenses. I love film. I didn't want that to be my first and only vocation, but I knew it was something I had an interest in. And so I pursued it way back in the mid-'70s. And I shot all of the Iona basketball games. Iona is a big college in Westchester County in New York, and I became a very good cameraman, and I learned a good deal about photography. And I didn't use it until many years later when I became a director, which is something I've always wanted to do, but waited to find the right material that linked up with my values and my views to actually direct and produce a movie. And all of that former training really came to the forefront of my life again, and it was really valuable for me. And I became a director out of a lull in my acting career where I couldn't get any work and I was going bankrupt and I had kids, and I really was still pursuing, trying to find all of the work that I do as a character actor, but it wasn't happening because we had the advent of the star who was commanding $20 million a movie, and they weren't paying the mid-range character actors any money to do their work. So out of that period of time, I found a script I liked, I directed a film, and I pulled myself out, and I found a whole new career. So I'm only giving you my story as an example of what you can do if you're stuck in a place that is not going to grow you in your vocation. So again, I started with saying, I don't believe that what I do is separate from what I live my life and the values of my life. And it's really important to understand and realize that you're supposed to be happy. The universe wants you to be happy. And if you're not, and the universe supplies abundance for us all. We say that we call work work. And the whole idea of work sounds a bit like a drudgery, right? Where work is really play. And we should be playing, which is the reason why I like to come to Comic Cons and look at people dressed up. Hi, Colin. Because we're having fun. And if you miss that in this life, you might learn it in the next one, but try to get it in this one. It should all be connected, and you should be happy. And out of that happiness, and out of that joy that you exude and love for what you do, other people will feel that. It's palpable. They'll want to be around you, and they'll want to say, come work for me, because you have an energetic field around you that is invincible. And it's not about the money. It's very rarely about that. It's when we focus on that survival that we're living in fear. And we focus on creativity and lightness of being is when we're truly living fully. So that's what I believe.
You just mentioned you're a character actor, and you did some wonderful work. Obviously, Revolution, just out. Sorry to hear it was canceled. Gus, Breaking Bad. You were the FBI agent in The Usual Suspects. But the one role that no one really recognizes out is you were bugging out. You were bugging out and do the right thing. I mean, how many people come to you these days and say, oh my God, I can't believe you, of all people, is...
Well, yeah, it's really funny you asked me that, because it used to be when I was always, roaming around the black community or in Harlem and New York doing my charitable work that I do for a lot of different foundations. African Americans would notice me from bugging out all the time. And, when I was downtown in the city, people would notice me from, Usual Suspects. It was always different. It wasn't until I started to do, what really broke me out again in my, third, fourth rise to stardom was obviously Breaking Bad, and then people, look back and they go, "Oh, I can't believe you're the same guy." So now I have Do the Right Thing photos on my table.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a very important movie, politically and socially. It's an important film, and I'm really very, very proud of it. And it's the 25th anniversary of that movie, and it was a great thing for Spike Lee to direct that film so beautifully. One of his best films, I believe, because at the time there was so much going on in New York City and the world itself surrounding racism and black and white and all of those issues that come along with the economic issue of people not being able to get where they want to be because they haven't been educated in a certain way, and they haven't been in the right economic presence to be able to do certain things in their lives.
Right.
It's a breakthrough film, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a film that I really love. Yes?
Well, I had one question, but actually before that I wanted to say congratulations on your Walk of Fame.
Oh yeah, baby!
If no one else is going to say it, I wanted to.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Going back on not this question, but the previous question, what you said about how your approach to the guest star from Breaking Bad for 6, 7 episodes, and you kept saying no, so they finally asked you for 11, and it was pretty much a whole season. In that respect, was there a conscious decision to kill off your character, or would your character have lived on longer? Like, did that have any effect?
So as an actor, I'll link this up. When I was a young actor, I used to go through a script and I'd flip through it and see how many scenes I was in before even reading it. How much of it's going to be about me? What will be my opportunity to shine? And we have to look at that in our lives, and whether it's acting or whatever vocation you choose, you have to figure out what's your strong suit. Where is your strength? When you go to a new company and you whatever you do in that company, whether it be from optics to natural gas, I'm a good communicator. And I venture to say that all of what we do is about communication. Whether we're typing it out or on our phones or iPads or computers, it's to communicate. So no matter how technologically advanced we get, there's still this. And this is important because, when you're able to make a connection, we have all these senses. We have, our eyes, our ears, we have our intuition, and those things are important, always have been, always will be, because people can sense by looking at someone who they are. The eyes really are the window to the soul. So we have come so far so quick that sometimes we're not able to go back to that simplicity of really sharing what really is inside of us. So it's really important to understand that will always be the number one. I tell people, I tell my kids, I tell friends, I'm the guy, I'm that guy who gets text and says, I don't understand what you mean. Because texting is not talking. And there can be a couple of different meanings from a text you may read from someone, and you answer it quickly because you assume you know what they're saying. And so it allows for a lot of assumptions in typing and texting without clarity of being able to hear someone's voice and their inflection and tone of voice and what they're really trying to tell you. So to be absolutely clear is a good thing because you understand the communication that's being sent and you're very clear about what you have received. From what I understand, you're saying this. How often do we have that kind of clarity? So it's important to get that. In Breaking Bad, it was wonderful. I mean, I was very clear about what I need. You see, when they came to me for that third season to give me a contract, they offered me a certain piece of that contract. Cable pays a lot less than what your price is in a network show or your film price because they only do 13 episodes. And they said, this is what we want to offer you. And I said, no. And they came back and said, well, how about this? And I said, no. And they said, well, how about this? That's a little better. Then I was very clear. How often are we clear about what we need and want in life? We always feel like, because I'm, up for something, as an actor, you're always auditioning, or you're the person that wants the job. And networks and films make you feel that their entity is more important than you. But what you have is the right to say yes or no. And you have the right to put a value on your good work. And so it's important for us to understand that you're a player in this too. So when they came to me with that contract, I said no, and they said why? And everyone thinks it's about a greed thing, about money. I said, I have 4 children, and this does not cover my nut. It's pretty simple. You know what I mean? It's not like I want to go buy a Ferrari with the money you want to offer me. It's that I have responsibilities, and I respect those responsibilities. And while I'm tied up with you, and I love this role, don't get me wrong, I would love to be a part of you, I have to serve up my family and my life. So this is what I need to break even. Not even to make it, I can't even buy popcorn after that, hot dogs, take the kids to you know what I mean, to the movies. I will do this for a base cut rate price of breaking even because I value what you're trying to push up. And I believe I can pull this show into a different stratosphere. I have a lot to learn, I have a lot to give, a lot to offer, I'm a team player. This is what I do. This is what I respect and what I love. So when people hear that, they hear the respect not only that you have for yourself, but also for them. And they want to be with people who have clarity, who value their craft and what they do. So I wasn't coming backdoor, I wasn't coming from greed, I was coming from an understanding of what I need. So, to answer your question after all that, because I like to weave a little message through all this, because this is who I am, okay? It was determined. And the great story of it is that I got after 401 Box Cutter, which was an incredible episode because I really love, I love theater a lot. Harold Pinter's a great playwright who wrote a play called Waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot had all these pauses. They were in the script, planned pauses. It's a classic. And they're just times where you just have silence. Characters are talking in the silence. Box Cutter to me was a gift. To be able to do 10 minutes and say nothing was fantastic. It really was. Actors love to act. I'm Italian, so I gesticulate. We do things over the moon. I tell my acting students, get it out of your system. Do your biggest, baddest, worst acting school of acting to get that out of your system. That was a gift to me. After doing Box Cutter, I knew the audience wouldn't want to see me for a while, and I was right. The writers didn't have me in 402. I came back in 403, and I got a knock on my trailer door saying, Vince is here, and I said, I know he's here. And they said, he wants to see you in his office. And I was like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. It's like being called to the principal's office, right? This is how we are in life. We sort of, do we shrink, do we expand? It's a question for you all. Do you shrink or do you expand? Did that fear rush through me that I was going to walk in that office, he was going to tell me what he eventually told me? Shrink me or expand me? Fear is not healthy. Healthy fear is, gosh, this big, huge guy or that woman with horns is coming at me, man. That's real fear, right? But the other fear of the unknown, all of that is what cripples us, crippling fear. So I walked in his office, and I tell you this story for a reason because it's fun to me. But I walked in his office, and we started talking, and he said to me, maybe you can direct and all this. I had a film I had made. I said, so Vince, did you watch my film? No, I didn't. Vince, I gave you the film last season. Why didn't you watch the movie? Well, I've been a little bit busy, blah, 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 blah. So I immediately turned the tables on him. I said, so, maybe before the end of the season we can find a spot. Well, he was honest, the spots are all taken. I said, oh, this is a shame. This is not what I expected. And we chat a little longer. He tells me, oh, you were really great in Box Cutter and 401. It hadn't aired yet, but it's really unbelievable work. And then he's sitting down, and he gets up, and he said, let me close the door. And I said, Vince, don't close the door. And he sits back down, and we chat a little longer, and he's getting a little uncomfortable, and he stands up and he goes, let me close the door. I said, I told you. Don't close the door. And he sits back down again, and we chat a little longer, and he gets up the third time, and he's just really he's flipping a little bit, because I went totally Gus on him. Right? And he gets up again, and I say to him, sit down. And he's like, okay. And then I busted out laughing. You know what I mean? He totally bought it, totally believed it, and he was totally in a little bit of fear. And so I said, and he gets up again, I said, no. I'll close the door for you. And I closed the door, and he said, look, you know, we didn't expect you to be around so long. We love the great music you and Brian have been making, and you've really lifted the show up and all this, but, you know, Harper Sperry, that was his final grand gesture to abolish slavery. But he had a very complicated and interesting life, and I'm really proud to be on track to tell the story. So I was in Syracuse looking around for locations just yesterday and the day before to see if I would have the opportunity to shoot this film in America, on American soil, about a great American hero. Yes?
Yes, I was wondering, you're going to be in Better Call Saul?
I don't know, am I? You tell me.
You were, so
Who said I was?
It said on Facebook.
Wow, gosh. Well, so here's my take on that. There is a sequel, prequel to Breaking Bad called You Better Call Saul, and it is surrounding Bob Odenkirk. And there is a possibility I might show up there. I've been really on the fence about it. They asked me if I would be interested before they ever started. They haven't started shooting yet, and I said yes. And since then, as Breaking Bad has, you know, moved farther to the, you know, out of my focus, I've had other considerations because I feel as if I've been really blessed. You know, I have a couple of movies on the 100 best movies of all time list, and that's a special treat. Just as equally so, it's really an honor and very, very special in my life to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You know, it's I was really blown away by receiving that, and you know, they look at your whole body of work, and it's a whole complicated process to have that happen. And for me, I walked that street when I was a kid, and I looked at, and I was a real fan of old movies. I had old movie stars, a couple of them I worked with before they passed away, Bette Davis. I worked with, and Paul Newman was a dear friend of mine, and there's just Burt Lancaster I work with, and so I've been doing it a long time, and that to me was just heaven to get that. So I'm honored to be asked, but I don't want to sort of dullen or diminish the work I did as Gus, because I take my work very seriously, and it's an iconic character. So until the show shows itself for what it's going to be, I don't know if I want to do it. I love Vince, I love the cast of Breaking Bad, and I love Bob Odenkirk. And the word was that it was either You Better Call Saul or The Rise of Gus. But he knew more about Saul. He'd been in conversations with Bob, with Vince was in conversations with Bob to talk about that. So it's still a distinct possibility. What my pitch to Vince is now, because it came to me, if I did want to, since Revolution went down, which is really, you know, I'm just so sad about that. I love the work I did there. But my pitch to Vince is this. Look, I'll come do Saul. I'll do 2 episodes, maybe 3 if there's a place for me, with the caveat, hopefully, that you would spin that off into 13, 1 season of The Rise of Gus, next year.
Yeah.
So bring me back into Saul, and then I'll do 13/7, whatever the number is at AMC. It's all business. Whatever AMC, you know, sees fit and you see fit to investigate Gus before you met him in Breaking Bad. So it's a possibility. We'll see what happens.
Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
The guy that was killed by the Salamancas, your partner, was he your lover? Or what was he? A brother? What was he? Was it a brother?
Well, there was a big question about it, and what I love about this particular show is that, and what I love about the Gus is that I created this guy as, you know, nothing's black and white. You know, it's just like the guy hiding in plain sight who's in this room who has another side job beside his job that we know he has. You know what I mean? And there are many people out there like that. How many of us hide from our own selves and we don't really tell the truth to ourselves about who we really are? You know, and that's the whole, that, you know, it's important to just be truthful about who we are, even if not to anybody else, but to ourselves. So we're, you know, what that old saying is, you don't fool anybody but yourself, is really, really true. Because if you're really living right, you know, you're able to see yourself clearly. So I have my take on it, but I like that it's, you know, it's out there in the universe. But for me, you know, look at Gus's trajectory. He got chemists to work for him who were the best. Could Gus cook himself? Of course he could. But he had a lot of different businesses to run, And he was the kind of personality that happened to be in a business that ran an illegal substance. But he ran it like a business, like any other business, which is he was a very good businessman. So with Max was a young guy who had a dream. And it's sort of the way I look at life in a way. We do things for ourselves and for our families, but we also do things for the benefit of the world. We try to bring each other to our best selves. Well, what does that mean? It means to be honest about who we are ourselves and be giving of our time. What's the greatest gift you can give to anyone, to young people, to your own children, to your family members, and to people that you meet in your life? It's not money. It's not even knowledge. What's the greatest gift you can give? That's right. It's the gift of your time. It's the gift of your time. It's such an important, how often do you just, sit on the floor with your kid and just sit there? Don't try to impart anything. Don't try to correct him or her. Just sit there and imbibe the presence of another human being and just be listening and interacting when asked to, when needed to. When it becomes not about you, but it becomes about us. So you're either a person who's about, the me and the I, you know what I mean? Or you're about the we and the us. And you decide what kind of person you are. So I've had a long career, and I tried to bring some of that to Gus. So for me, Max was, he was mentoring Max. He brought Max off the streets of El Salvador.
Yeah.
And Max had a dream and was a poor kid, and he put him through school. Yes, there was an agreement. Yeah, you're gonna come cook for me eventually, but you're gonna get your dream. You're gonna go, become a chemist, become the best of the best. And so the whole thing that untied Gus in the end was the revenge for Max. That was an investment of his time,
Yeah, you went to a lot of trouble, that's fine.
of his love for another human being. Does it look like it could be lover love?
Yeah,
I guess it does. Love is love. But if you asked me, they weren't involved. This was a truly beautiful friendship and mentoring that life should be for many of us. So there's your answer. But I love that people don't know. It's all right.
We're out of time. We're running out of time.
Oh, well, wait, we got two more hands
Quick
up.
one? Can we do one quick question?
We got one. Are you standing for a reason?
So I can see you better.
I love you, man. Boyos! Okay, one there.
Is there a chance of another network picking up Revolution?
I don't know that. I've done a lot of shows that have been canceled on the air, off the air. It's always the hope that it would go someplace else. There have been shows that have been rerouted someplace else. Someone's picked them up. Lately, I heard that some of the cast members are talking about maybe making a movie, Revolution movie. It's always a stutter stop when you haven't told the whole story. Eric Kripke's brilliant. I love J.J. Abrams. There's a whole lot of story they had to tell, and they were cut short. So let's hope that there's a possibility that we may come back in some other incarnation. Yes?
Did they give you any indication where it was going to go? And we love Tom Neville. It's the reason we kept watching every week. We went and we said, I don't really like that character. I don't really like that character. But I will keep watching. And we both at the same time said, Tom Neville.
Thank you. Very complicated and
You were
intricate
getting beat up
character.
every time.
Yeah, well, this last season they beat the hell out of me. I was so tired of being beat up. I was like, wait a minute, this guy's a bad dude, but he's getting beat up. I love the character. We don't know if it even will get considered somewhere else. We hope it might, and thank you for watching that particular time. We had one more young man right there, and then we'll close it out.
I know you said you loved filming the box cutter scene, but was there any other favorite scene or episode you had of Breaking Bad?
Well, it was the flashbacks. It truly was hermanos. You get a chance to really see where Gus came from. And it was an interesting episode because I had shot so many where I was dominant in a very quiet way, very, very graceful and cordial. As you saw me in the beginning in the restaurant, is everything to your satisfaction? You think he's the manager. But Hermanos was really beautiful for me because it did encompass that relationship with Max, and it was a place where I could be vulnerable as an actor. As Gus, I could be vulnerable. I was a guy who was, coming with his hat in his hands, who had made a mistake with Don Eladio by putting the meth in the chicken and getting his guys, but he wanted to get to this guy to further his business. So it was a very awkward, day for me. I was speaking Chilean Spanish. We had Mark Margolis, who is Spanish, who spoke no Spanish, but could speak it when ready. We had Stephen Bauer, who grew up in Puerto Rico, who spoke Puerto Rican Spanish. We had 3 other actors there who were all fluent in some some Spanish from somewhere, right? So they were, and I was trying to do my Chilean and did it really well, but it was nerve-wracking for me because I also, and I think the thing that got me that day and gave that vulnerable performance was that I was the odd man out. I wasn't the strong Gus, and it was a really great place to be, which made it such a great episode. So I love Hermanos, and I also love Salud, because there's nothing like a good revenge, you know, and a well thought out revenge. So Salud was very special for me too. After, you know, the poison, it was just such a great, you know, very well written episode for me, and a great piece to be able to act and interact with such great actors. It was a really great show and a really great time for me. And I'm glad many of you love Breaking Bad. I'm glad you love Revolution. I hope there's some Once Upon a Time fans. But here, I'll leave you with this. So, you know, a lot's been said today, and thank you for all your great questions. But the thing to remember is, you know, be true to oneself. Be true to yourself. And if you have that gut feeling and that some things in your life aren't working for you, whether it be vocation or job, address it. Look at it. Because you never know. The change you may make from looking at something very specifically and very focused could change everything for you. And when you don't have the answer, we expect each other to have all the answers. But you know, I started to realize this with my children. To be able to be honest and say to them, I don't know, is a great place. Because when you say I don't know, then you're leaving a space to be inspired and to know. And that's a wonderful thing. We live in a very fast-paced society. This place we call America has changed so quickly, and everyone's expected to be an expert on everything. So if you're able to just slow down and listen to the voice inside you, and listen to your breath, and calm your spirit, you allow a space for the divine energy of the universe to enter you. And then you can ask out loud with your own voice, which way do I go? What do I do? Equally so, does anyone here write anymore by hand? You know, we have New Year's every year, and we ask for all these things in our being, but do we say it out loud in a room to ourselves? Do we write it down with our own hand? That is your essence of spirit going on paper, and put it in a little secret place. Our wishes and desires for all of this year. It's important to do those little small rituals and put spirit into and out into the universe. Because when you say what you want, then it's flashing through the universe. The universe hears you right away. When you write what you want, you're putting that out there within the universe again. And watch how things come to you. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to live your lives fully. And thank you for watching me. Blessings.